What's going on, guys? It's Frito here for Your Overwatch. Myself and many other creators got the chance to play in the closed alpha for Overwatch 2, and I'm very happy to say that I loved it. The best endorsement a gamer can give is that they're addicted to a game and want to keep playing it. The improvements are so good, it was painful to try to go back to Overwatch 1. But the good news is, I think, for all of you trying to get into the PvP beta, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. Overwatch 2 is a more thoughtfully designed game. It's easier to understand, less frustrating, and you have more agency and carry potential as an individual. Okay, I'm throwing tons of stuff at you. I'll explain all these points through the video, but first, a quick message from today's video sponsor. As an adult gamer, I always believed in gaming the system. If you're going to spend money on something anyway, then the plastic you're using to pay for it should probably give you something in return, right? If it's free, it's for me. I've always used a rewards card, which is why I was so excited when I found out about Mana app. Mana is a debit rewards card built specifically for gamers. You know how these things work. You use it to pay for things you were going to buy anyway, and they reward you with points to use in their store. Use real money to earn real perks. Cash in your points to get free stuff. This water bottle's really legit. It looks great. Look at that thing. You can even sync up your gamer tag from League of Legends or Valorant with Mana app and earn points just for playing. That's like playing a video game to earn an in real life loot box. Just cash it in and take the free stuff. Mana app is MVB bank member FDIC. This product is launching this summer, but you gotta get on the wait list and sign up. Take our link in the description right now to get a day one badge on your account, and if you refer a friend, you'll move up the list and gain even more rewards points. You can get up to $109 worth of value, as well as enter exclusive giveaways. It is US only though, so sorry if you're international. You want free stuff? Of course you do. Take the link in the description and check out Mana app right now. The main conclusion is that Overwatch 2.0 is way more fun, mainly because a long list of annoyances from Overwatch 1 have been directly addressed. Overwatch 1 was built around team play, which, as everybody knows, is very annoying with random players. It always felt like trying to get kindergartners to walk in a straight line. Your individual success was directly tied to the relationship between your team all the time. Doing things together was foundational to how you had to play the game, making for the foundation for Overwatch 1 to be very frustrating. Overwatch 2.0 plays nothing like this. In every way possible, the game has been restructured to put power into the individual's hands. Why is this? First of all, that you'll notice from any gameplay you see today, the map design feels completely open, whether it's the new maps or the subtraction of some old maps. 2CP's gone, so the regroup simulator and holding hands to get through chokes, that's just not a thing anymore. Instead, the new maps have flanks everywhere, but I was happy to find out that even the old maps played a lot better because of 5v5. Having one tank on the battlefield for each team means that there's only one big body to gum up the works of any part of the map. This means both teams function in an asymmetrical way, which causes for movement. Whereas in Overwatch 1, you could mark and gum up and get stuck with two tanks ramming their heads against each other, against the enemy's two tanks, and everybody healing and nothing happens until you ult. Nobody likes poke at the choke gameplay at any level of play. But in Overwatch 2, if you see the tank in a lane, in the way, you always can walk the other direction, which is one of the most freeing, liberating, wonderful aspects of any shooter game, being able to go where you want. It's almost hard to describe a world where you're playing Overwatch and you're not constantly destroyed or insta-killed or chain-stunned when you walk around the wrong corner. Well, Overwatch 2 accomplishes this for a few reasons. The crowd control of the game is largely reduced. So things that used to add chain stuns or instantly punishing you for stepping out too far, like Mei fully freezing you, no longer exists. McCree no longer has a flashbang, instead he has a bomb, a sticky grenade. Brigitte doesn't have a stun. Squishy characters on the whole largely don't have crowd control. A few still do, but it's reduced so much that as any character, walking around a corner doesn't mean insta-kill, chain stun death. It instead means you're gonna go find a hero shooter duel to go fight and take. And while yes, the tank characters still have stuns, they're large characters, so they're easy to see and know where they are most of the time. Except for Doomfist, he flies in the sky now, so look out for him. But even Doomfist follows a new rule set for the tank position. and as well the design of the game on the whole. A funny thing about the Doomfist and Orisa reworks is that they're kind of the same. Doomfist can eat damage in order to charge up his gauntlet to make it more effective, has mobility to get around, and a stun, and a little bit of poke damage. Orisa has a bit more poke damage, and now can spin her spear around in order to eat incoming damage and projectiles, also has a mobility tool, and has a stun. And the thing that's very interesting to me about this is that the old design of Overwatch 1 characters was to try to make them all unique. That's gone now. Instead, heroes are designed in order to fit within a role, and Blizzard is seemingly happy to allow for role overlap, which is a wonderfully consistent thing. It's as if they looked at D.Va eating enemy ultimates and abilities and like, wow, that's kind of a rewarding mechanic for a tank player to go catch abilities or to lure aggression and then eat a bunch of it. That's like a tank thing to do. Well, now like half the tanks do that in their own little way. The reason why I'm so happy about this is that it means the tank character and role is consistent in what you can expect them to do, and more importantly, what you can expect the damage role to not do. This results in all three roles playing a lot better. The tanks have all been buffed to be more durable, so much so that a lot of the time it's better to just ignore them, whereas the ability spam and ability stacking and the chaos and the craziness of Overwatch 1 meant that a tank could turn the corner and just get evaporated, but also was designed in order to need their tank partner to do anything. Now they have their own individual agency, and you can't just instantly delete one, seemingly by accident. The game just doesn't function that way anymore. While I think this is going to make high-level Overwatch or full-team Overwatch a lot simpler, much easier to solve, with much harsher meta rules, for the average player, I think it's going to be a huge boost. Because Overwatch 2 feels more like a fighting game to me, in that there are tiers of characters, many of them doing similar things, and although you definitely are going to feel gaps in strength between them, for the average player, I think you're much more easily going to fit in with the rest of your team, because no longer are their team comps the way you remember them from Overwatch 1. It isn't like a death ball with interconnected parts just to function. Instead, you're all playing a hero shooter character on your own who also tends to coordinate with your team to create crossfires and play the shooter game. Meaning the MOBA team comp metagame, which was so horribly punishing in Overwatch 1, isn't at the forefront. You might be concluding after watching this gameplay that Winston is just a horrifically broken tank hero. But at higher tiers, Doomfist had just been easily dominating the metagame. But I think you can see from this gameplay specifically what I kind of mean by every hero is just playing the same game in their own way. Whether I'm on Doomfist or Winston, our job as the tank is pretty much the same. Jump in and help get eliminations. Because Doom can do a lot more damage, he had been perceived as a lot better, but in my hands, placing the bubble down to help out the team and using Winston's railgun fit my mechanical skill set more so than playing Doom, who you're really gonna have to master to do much with. The way the gameplay works like this reminds a lot of Overwatch 1 when it first came out. You young guns may not remember 6 years ago, but back then it was also the case where there was very few stuns in the game. Not much was very easy, and in fact, securing eliminations was kind of difficult. And there felt like there was a lot of room to express yourself and just use the characters that suited you. And while the balance really wasn't there at the start of the game, a lot of the, particularly like what they called defense heroes at the time, kind of just didn't do anything. You could still master them and just play a budget version of something else. That's the way the game used to be designed. But then at some point, Overwatch 1 wanted to make every single hero viable and create all these different team comps. It made the power of the comps overshadow the individual skill to a great degree. You can expect there to be counters in Overwatch 2, they just won't be as severe due to the asymmetrical nature of the combat. So as an example, in this match, the enemy Doomfist had been clowning us, but switching to Zarya with her 2 bubbles means that I, or my teammate, can easily tank his all-in engages, giving me charge. But seeing as I only can pick one tank, I can't solve every problem for the team. Zarya has always been weak to ranged hit scan characters because she's slow and they just wait out a bubble and then headshot her. Zarya is extremely brawly close range, but is just going to be weak at range. And there's nothing I can do about it. I love this part of the game because it means no matter what, your team comp isn't fully safe. Good. In Overwatch 1, your team comp kind of played the game for you. Like, you existed with the right abilities and auto won. Not in Overwatch 2. In Overwatch 1, it was very common for the enemy tank line to have a real team comp, and if your team wasn't playing the same one, it felt like you could do nothing. In Overwatch 1, you're really used to having too many abilities in the way that just stack on top of each other, where there's a shield here, there's a shield there, there's an immortality field behind it. You can't kill a thing. It's not possible to even find an elimination, much less a fair fight. Overwatch 2 feels the opposite, where as the movement and flow and asymmetric nature of the combat flows out, even as your team starts to go down, there's avenues and lanes for you to go find a fight to potentially carry. It's still going to be hard to, but it feels possible if you play well enough. I wouldn't personally say it makes the game play like Call of Duty. I think that is a ridiculous statement, having played it now myself. Because all the characters are so wacky and wild, you're definitely playing a hero shooter, but what you're not playing anymore is an RPG game. Overwatch 1 team comps felt so easy to make a build that you could cheese a boss with in an MMO. This comp just can't die. Well, good luck playing anything else against it. Playing with randoms, having a weak hero on your team will definitely be bad, but it's not like you needed that character to play some specific thing for your entire team comp to function. Because the base standard of the game is a hero shooter where you alone will be going and doing your own thing anyway. I'm trying my best to explain this, but really you're just gonna have to play it to know what I mean. If you're a fan of Overwatch, you're like, everyone being self-sufficient, that sounds ridiculous. But you kinda are, because there's space on the map to do so, and there's only one tank. So their damage mitigation can't be everywhere at once. We'll be making lots more videos breaking down the new way Overwatch 2.0 plays. The general themes are more agency for the individual, way more hero overlap, less frustration, more movement, less stuns, but now I want to get into negative byproducts of this, which for the greater good, I'm for all the positives, but I just want to be realistic on what to expect. With everything in life, there's always trade-offs. And while Overwatch 2 becoming a much more direct skill-based game, where it's less about picking the right Pokemon counter to be super effective against the enemy, and more about executing your kit and character to their maximum potential with the hero shooter mechanics, well, that means you need mechanics in order to win. Now, it's not always aim per se, but it definitely is movement and accuracy with whatever your hero does, with a very key caveat that a lot of it is not easy. While characters like McCree, Brigitte, and Mei losing their ability to easily stun an opponent makes the gameplay better, it also means you do not have easy selections in those categories to kind of just support the team with some over-the-top stun effect. Now, in Overwatch 2, if there's a mobility hero clowning on you, you gotta aim something. And while slowing down a dive tank as Mei, or whip-shotting a character away as Brigitte, those things will help, but there's a lot of gameplay aspects in Overwatch 1 that we might call crutches, which created way harsher counters than the sequel has at all. So much so that I would say I found it difficult to really lean into one of my favorite playstyles with Overwatch, which is find the easiest character that is good to help the team and play that. No character feels that easy. All the tanks are reworked into hero shooter hybrids. DPS are just the same they've always been, with less stuns, more shooting. And as the support class, almost removed entirely is the tank battle, which means if you've been training your ability to be more of a DPS-minded support or to make plays against squishies, Overwatch 2 is the game for you. But whereas in Overwatch 1, there was a lot of team comps where you can kind of hide in the back behind your two tanks and damage and actually just heal bot. There's no heal botting in Overwatch 1, mainly because there's no dedicated tank to peel for you. The movement of the game lets things through, and that means skilled players are coming right after you. So as a support, you have to learn how to duel. There's certain things that just don't exist anymore that you might miss. For example, the concept of a main tank. So if you're the type of player that only wants to be good at ushering in the team and setting engagements, or if you're the type of player that feels incapable of playing anything other than a deathball comp, you're going to feel uncomfortable. Because even when you're picking a, quote, main tank type hero, the shield oftentimes is going to be for the tank to survive, going where they need to go. Another way to say this is all 4 squishies spend more time in Overwatch 2 shooting at each other, rather than everyone always focusing on the main tank, shooting and healing and everything. But the downside is, so far anyway, targeting supports is almost always the best call. Because think of it. Tanks have more health, and there's 2 healers and 1 tank. So yeah, you can get a lot of damage in on them, but they can take it and out-heal it, and most of the time, you're not going to kill the tank. Damage characters are squishy themselves, but can receive healing and have the most damage. So going to fight them might be a bit unfair for you, which means in this asymmetrical fighting style, the most vulnerable target who you should try to go get first is the supports. Which, yes, support players, so far in our alpha testing, they had been the weaker role. But in all these conversations and feedback we've been giving to the developers about this, I've lost track, because before the alpha, if you think back to the first time they showed significant gameplay when the pros played in Hawaii, the thought process of the devs at the time is that the supports were by far and away the strongest. I'm a little confused if this is a playstyle difference where the developers just aren't targeting the most optimal thing, and then all the pros and content creators come in and then figure it out in a day, or if it's just because of the balance being different. But I am not entirely sure, so I'm a little bit worried about this. But I also think there's going to be massive growing pains with everyone involved, and someone's kind of got to be the hardest role to play in the game, right? In Overwatch 1, for most of it, it was probably the tank, where so many situations you were just kind of screwed. In Overwatch 2, it's starting to look like the supports are going to have a tougher time. But I also think this is skill tier depending, because if you're playing in the alpha among other content creators and pros, let me tell you, some of these pro players on hit scans when there isn't shields in the game are pretty good. So yeah, for the pros, supports were dying instantly because damage characters just have free lanes to go after them. And as well, I'd say, as a tank player with extra stats, I'm happy to just run at supports all day until someone stops me. But I also wonder, based on seeing how players have been positioning and reacting and blah, 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 I think there might be some growing pains when support players learn you have to position differently than you're used to. You can't afford to be as close to the fight as you were in Overwatch 1, and I wonder if those adjustments get made, what our real conclusion on this is. When I played support, I still felt like I could influence a lot and have a massive impact. But was that just because I wasn't playing skilled enough opponents? But when matchmaking is better, do supports reliably lose against equally skilled opponents targeting them? It's hard for me to say. I do know, though, the devs are looking into this and seeing what they can do. Like, the core principles of the game, they seem to be behind and proud of. The balance is not quite there in the version we played. But I want that to be my final point. This game can't be balanced, because all that complexity and wacky team comps and odd jobs that all the heroes got to do in Overwatch 1, if the positive of role overlap is that everyone's kind of playing a budget version of the main concept of the role, that also means the optimal pick is really obvious. But I only think this matters for the higher tiers of play. I've made a million videos about this, but this is why I think we're going to obviously see that the high tiers will need some sort of draft system. I made an entire video dedicated to draft mode, so I won't go too in-depth here, but I think you're going to find a lot of content creators at the very least wanting hero bans in competitive play of some sort. I'm fine if it's just in the full team mode, honestly. I don't think you'll desperately need it in solo queue due to the preferences to play heroes people like, as opposed to just play the meta comp all the time. But remember that we're gaining about 6-ish heroes soon if they release all the content they said they were going to have by release. That means Overwatch 2 could have nearly 40 characters before you know it. We have 32 now, plus 6 would be 38. And a lot of them have overlap, The excuse that you can't ban a hero because it's built to be a specific counter to something like it was in Overwatch 1 just doesn't exist anymore. Like, that's not how the game even works. These design principles, although they make a much better gameplay experience, I think we're gonna have a much more stale meta. Much harder to play off-meta picks, at least at higher tiers. But when it comes to the trade-offs of life and video games, that is one I'm very happy to have, and we'll have to see. But we either have to lose all expectation of hero diversity competitively, or we need an elaborate ban type system. A single ban isn't good enough, by the way. One ban for almost 40 characters, it's just like whatever. If you want to really get into those other tiers of characters. Otherwise, there's going to be a top tier that you see almost all the time, and a bunch of weaker options and budget versions of those that are just a few percentage points worse, doing the same job, so you don't see them hardly ever. Even with that doomsday scenario where there isn't meta diversity, the game plays really good. So it's not like you're stuck on a comp that is like, looks skillless to watch. Even as the devs said, Sojourn was like massively OP when they first introduced her to the pros in the alpha. They admitted that. I don't think we care so much when the OP parts of the game require you to click heads or do some mechanical outplay. The easy stuff is gone. The RPG builds of the game are largely gone. So that diversity is gone. But what creeps out like a garden of flowers from the rubble is the gameplay that you want. We can't have our cake and eat it too with this. I'm glad to lose the hero diversity if we're gaining way better gameplay, but I'm greedy. I like to have both. So we'll see how they address that problem or just don't address it. Maybe they just keep adding new stuff and mix up the gameplay. We'll have 5 heroes be clearly better than the rest any given patch. That would not be the best, competitively speaking, but I can live with that when the game just plays so much better. We'll have so much more to talk about in future videos. They're making a load of changes to the game. And when this is the biggest criticism I can find, I think we're in a really good spot. Well, guys, that's everything for today's video. We threw a lot at you. Let us know in the comment section down below what you would like us to elaborate on. Make sure you sign up for the beta so you can get in and play on the 26th. And while you're signing up for things, check out today's video sponsor, Mana App. Why not get rewarded for the purchases you're going to make anyway? It's a no-brainer for gamers. Click the link in the description to check them out. Click the bell to subscribe so that you catch our upcoming uploads about Overwatch 2. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for Your Overwatch. We'll see you guys next time.